But we'll get back to all the movers and shakers. For the time being, we're currently joined by Girish Nadkarni, the Managing Director Investment Banking of Motilal Oswal Financial Services, who joins us from the sidelines of the 13th Annual Global Investor Conference. Hi, Girish. Thanks so much for joining in today. What's the mood like, Girish, out there? And also, I remember FY17, we had spoken some time ago. You told us that FY17 was a good year in terms of IPOs. We saw the largest, IPOs in terms of value in the last 5-6 years. FY18 looking as vibrant as FY17?
I think it is the current year will show a growth of at least 20% in terms of the funds raised, probably looking better than FY17. We have already raised about 30 to 40% in the first 4 months itself of the 50,000 crore target in IPOs. Typically in a year you would end up seeing about 100,000 crores of primary raisings, about half of that from IPOs and another 50,000 crores from QIPs. So this year, I think with all the large insurance companies, AMCs, and a couple of other financial services firms lined up, I think we will hopefully surpass the FY17 target and the 20% growth thereon.
Okay. Hi, Girish. Good morning. Hope you're enjoying your conference. But tell us, which are the sectors which are actually seeing the most traction? I mean,
Absolutely.
Even at the conference itself, which are the companies that people want to meet? What are the sectors they're talking about?
So by and large, I think the index, the Nifty, has about 38-39% focus on the financial services. The constituent of financial services about close to 40%, and consequently the flavor definitely is financial services. We've seen banks, NBFCs raise money. Now there are insurance companies and IPOs and AMCs that will list. So financial services has now got a little more broad-based from the earlier thing. NBFCs, we have seen a great year in FY17, and going forward also we should see NBFCs benefiting significantly because of the value migration from PSU banks in terms of business. So that is one sector. Consumer, of course, remains an investor favorite. I think barring infrastructure, and there we are seeing some early signs of interest coming back in the funds, and to a certain extent pharmaceuticals sector is a little down, healthcare and pharmaceuticals, but the rest of the sectors, manufacturing, metals, are seeing a good amount of traction from investors, so there is a lot of interest there.
All right, Girish, you've given us various sectors. What about, if I had to ask you about, all of us are looking at the listed space. We're talking about the Nifty, the Sensex, the way things are moving out there. But there's plenty of interest in the unlisted space as well, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So structurally, I think in the IPO markets, there is a new set of investors, which are the AIFs, which have come into the place. There are funds being raised, by the AIFs and other. There are pre-IPO funds which are being raised, by companies. So there is again there is a broad basing of investor interest, and therefore the interest in the unlisted space continues to remain high, more particularly closer to an IPO. The private equity interest has always been there, and for the last 3, 4, 5 years, and that continues as well.
And even in terms of the M&A, right? So in terms of deals, I think I read your report that the first half of the calendar year has seen deals in excess of $40 billion. What does the rest of the year hold? Anything that we need to keep our eyes peeled for in the second half?
So in terms of M&A, I think that gets skewed by a few large deals. We've seen a lot of interest in the internet and consumer internet space, where we've seen large acquisitions. Telecom remains an area where there is a large consolidation which happens. So those are the ones which actually swing the numbers. But besides that, I think there is interest, and there are transactions that one can see to a certain extent in the distressed sector. I think with with the NCLT and other mechanisms that are in place, you will see a lot of companies being taken over, and M&A opportunities in the distressed asset space as well. So apart from the large deals which kind of swing the numbers, M&A remains interesting for distressed assets. Besides that, I think consumer companies generally don't, they are not very amenable because they're cash flow generating businesses. So technology remains an area of interest. I think telecom remains an area of interest in terms of M&A. Infrastructure companies, because of the distressed asset scenario, remains an area of interest.
All right, Girish, thanks so much for stopping by and, in fact, giving us all those details. We're going to keep our eye out on all those IPOs that are coming up, as well as in terms of any mergers and acquisitions. Pleasure talking to you. Well, just keep an eye out on the markets.